We are recording.
So hello, good evening. Welcome to Candy Crew Team Training. My name is Sarah Shabbat. For those of you that don't know me, we like to call ourselves the Candy Girls or the Candy Crew. If you are not a girl or female, we've expanded it now to everybody, so the Candy Crew. And I'm going to introduce Kari first because Kari was kind enough to reach out to Mike and set this up for us. So for those of you who don't know Kari Thompson is our upline. He is actually the person who started it all. If it wasn't for him, none of us would be here. He's the one who reached out to Travis, and Travis reached out to Kevin and myself. And then from there on forth, we're all here. So Kari, I am very, very honored that you've decided to join us tonight and very grateful that you were able to reach out to Mike and set this up. So if you don't mind giving Mike the proper introduction that he deserves, please take it away.
You bet. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, Alicia, for doing these calls every week. Tonight, we have a real special guest, Mike Healy and Stacy. I need to mention Mike's wife because actually when I introduced him, I was more worried about Stacy than I was about Mike. But Mike and Stacy have been around the industry for quite a while. And I got on earlier and saw that some of you know him. The thing I love about Mike is his uncanny ability to explain things in a real simple fashion, which I think is really, really valuable. And I'm going to just do a quick intro. Mike is what I would consider one of the best trainers that I've seen, been a part of. I once did an event after the event, and I noticed a lot of people were running down this one corridor, and it was to the Healy's training. And I noticed that a lot of those people weren't in his organization. So what I've seen over the years is that what Mike says really resonates with people because of the way he processes information and the way he explains information. I would consider Mike, again, one of the best trainers in the industry. He may take issue with that. I've always thought that about Mike. He's also a top recruiter. And when I say a top recruiter, it's not because he just brings teams in. I've seen the guy start from scratch and go from zero to hero in a really short period of time. So I don't want to belabor the point, but want to welcome Mike to the call. And Mike, how you doing tonight?
If I was any better, it'd be illegal.
Well, great. We're so excited to have you on board. Would you mind just taking 1 or 2 minutes and kind of maybe giving us more about your background and how you got to the point where you are today?
Yeah. I'll try to make it quick too, because it's basically I've been in the industry for about 23 years. So after high school, I was during high school, at the end of high school, I thought I was going to go to the military and broke my leg my football senior year playing football. And then I got a discharge before I even got to the military. So I didn't have any future because I didn't plan for college. All I had to do was get enough credits to graduate, and I was off and didn't know what I was going to do. And I ended up getting in the bar business. I ended up being a bouncer. I was kind of a stocky guy, had a wrestling background and, that kind of thing, kickboxing, and got into bar business. Next thing I know, I'm 8 years in that industry, and it was chaos. And somebody invited me to a hotel meeting for an opportunity presentation, which I thought was a job interview. And all I saw was this guy give the worst, most boring presentation I'd ever seen in my life. And I found out this guy was making like $3,000 a month. And I was like, if that guy can do it, I know I got a shot. And that's how I was introduced to the industry. And next thing you know, I kind of just dabbled in a few things. I was able to get out of the bar business, became a student of the game, started, just really, really being hungry to learn everything I could. I went to every training. I started reading books. I think I read the very first book I ever read was All You Can Do Is All You Can Do, but All You Can Do Is Enough by Art Williams, that was referred to me. And then you fast forward about 10 years into it, I'd dabbled in it and made a little bit of money. And then 10 years into the industry, I quit. I said I'd never do it again. I got frustrated. I tried 3 or 4 companies, and like I said, I did okay, but just didn't know what I was going to do. Ended up having to get my first job in 10 years. Gave up on all my networking dreams of freedom and waking up when I was done sleeping as opposed to hearing an alarm clock. And the next thing you know, I'm a personal trainer. And then someone introduced me to the company that you and I met in, and was, kicking and screaming, crossing my arms. Somebody talked me to go to an event, and I guess there must have been a little tiny spark left that somebody blew on, and it kind of got going. And the next thing you know, I ended up doing earning 7 figures in that thing. And then from that point on, I just kind of, really started becoming more of a student of the game. learned internet marketing a while back and so on. And so, I mean, I could go on and on, obviously, about just an introduction, but I've been doing internet marketing for about 11 years. I'm really, really good on the internet. And like Cowrie said, I usually can take the thing that a lot of people find nice is I can usually take stuff that most people complicate and keep it fairly simple to a degree. I got to be careful too, because, you know, repetition of knowing this stuff and doing it so often, sometimes you can overlook what it was like to be a newbie again. But, you know, I mean, ultimately, I'm just a dad, father, you know, that kind of thing, and husband. That's really what it is. Family's always been our number one priority. You know, yeah, I like the nice cars. Yeah, I like the nice house. Yeah, I like the nice vacations. But you know, when you can just wake up in the morning when you're done sleeping, like I said, and go to the gym when you want and visit with who you want and do what you want when you want, and so on, you can't put a price on that. And I think that's kind of the key. So the why was definitely why I got to the point that I'm at now. And then Cowrie introduced me to this. And so here we are right now. So anyhow, that was kind of as fast as I could put 23 years into a little thing. So
Mike, that was great. Let's talk a little bit about why aplgo. And obviously I was there calling you. I've kept in touch with you over the years, different things that have gone down. You and I get a lot of things first or really early. We look at a lot. We're very skeptical. I approached you about this. Can you tell us why aplgo?
Well, yeah, first off, obviously, you know, most people understand the fact that most people are going to listen to somebody because they know them, like them, and trust them, right? So that's number one. But two, if you don't have any credibility and influence, I would always just suggest to you that you point to somebody that does. I mean, I think that's the hardest problem for a lot of people, is they always try to think that they have to be the message. And, oh, what do I know about business? And, oh, what do I know? And I have never had success and no one ever listens to me. And you should never put that burden on yourself. You should always posture someone else, whether it's a tool, a person, or an event, in my opinion. And if you do that, you're good to go. Well, so obviously Cowrie and I would kind of speak the same language. And I did blow Cowrie off multiple times, just to be totally honest. I mean, it happens. I literally get hit up almost every single day about opportunities. And, you know, and I kind of know what I look for. And the other thing too is, I'm not, this isn't a bragging, this is just a fact. I'm not a rookie to the point that I have to really, I know what I'm looking for anymore. And I also use data because I'm an internet guy. So I look at traffic on websites. I look at keyword searches. I look at everything. Companies can't lie to me anymore if they're in momentum or not in momentum. Can't be done. Okay. The data will just, you know, people lie, numbers don't. That's what and I don't make emotional decisions anymore, typically data decisions. So what happened was Cowrie talked to me about this, and he got my attention with a few things that he had stated, and he started talking about a product. And some of the best experiences I've had in the industry have been with product companies. In fact, the best experience I ever had was the company we had we were in together. We weren't the same teams, but that's where we met from. Just everything they had with the culture, community, products, branding, marketing, that kind of thing, and so on. And what happened was Cowrie started telling me this and giving me a few comparisons, what kind of, you know, resonated with me, the fact that these were probably the same things that were in there. And I remember, you know, I made very good, 7-figure income, but I'd gotten in when that company had over 100,000 people in that company, you know, actively working it just in the United States. So the other thing that I looked at was obviously aplgo being a 9-year-old established company with a track record that was, you know, statistically and, you know, growing, you know, doing over 100 million in sales. In my personal opinion, you can't fib or lie to enough people that they're going to buy $100 million a year and keep growing in product if something doesn't work. So that was one of the things. So I look at that. And like I said, I do track the data on everything. I've watched the steady growth of the data of the growth in the different markets. You know, I go through and I look at those. Obviously, it's just this nice growth. You don't need a big spike. You need to be in at the right time and develop stuff. The other thing too is, and I hope I'm not talking too fast.
No, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. It just kind of rattles off sometimes. But you know, I was looking at other things that Cowrie was talking about. I was obviously asking who was in. I mean, I'm friends with Travis. I know Travis Flaherty. I know Travis. I think you're on here. What's up, buddy? I trust Travis. I know him and his wife. They've done a great job in the years in the industry. They know what to look for and so on. And I think those are some other things. And then obviously timing in the States and then the other countries that are about to open up, that does give us all an advantage, whether people want to believe it or not, being in early. Here's the thing though, is it's just a little tip. You can be in something early and watch it just go by without you if you don't do anything. Okay. The best time to paddle is not when the wave hits, is when you see it in the distance, you start paddling like crazy. Kay, man, you've been in Hawaii, right? You paddle when you see the wave in the distance so that you can ride it. Otherwise, you just watch everybody and wave as they go hit the beach. So anyhow, those were some, most important thing probably is the product, right? Product was, first off, I understand, and most of us have been introduced enough to all of those botanicals that are in all of the products. So they already have good data and science to prove how good those types of things are for individuals that consume them. The delivery system was also a unique thing to me, because I obviously, and most of us get pitched on the Me Too products. It's just, our powder does this, except we added this. And it's just a different way to do it. And so a delivery system of like this is very unique. And because they have different strokes for different folks, I think it's also unique too, because somebody asked me that today. I was talking, he says, well, what are you taking? I said, well, I'm actually because I'm in decent shape. I'm pretty sensitive to what I need. I've almost been taking stuff, not every single product every single day, but things that I need at the moment. And it seems to do the job at the moment that I need it. Like if I eat too fast, which is quite often, ice is obviously a relief on that. And sometimes you get that late afternoon brain fog. And I think it's called the BRN one. That's the brain thing, right? The coffee flavored one. I mean, that one just kind of crisps you up a little bit. You start to get, the cognitive stuff. I can totally tell that works. And so, I think that's really nice, is you've got an easy product that can be sampled, taken in gym bags, purses, glove compartments, things like that. So anyhow, go ahead, Cowrie. I don't want to monopolize. Every answer doesn't need to be 15 minutes long, probably.
No, that's a great start, Mike. Now, I want to ask you your opinion about a compensation plan. I know when I showed it to you, it was a little bit different than what you'd seen before. Now being in this thing for almost a month, I think 3 weeks or 4 weeks. What are your thoughts on the comp plan?
I absolutely love the comp plan. Because I'm not a math guy. Let me put it to you that way. I'm not really good at math, but I'm very good at puzzles, and compensation plans typically are like puzzles to me. Like when I look at them, I'm like, okay, what do I need to do this? Which is kind of nice, because a lot of times compensation plans will dictate behavior in a business and you get rewarded accordingly. But I think it's one of the best comp plans that I've been a part of. I love the status scenario. In fact, I've never seen the status, kind of scenario to where it stayed true to what it was supposed to do. I've been pitched hey, get in and be a founder and pay 10 times what the normal person is, and we'll hopefully pay you this money. I've been in that scenario before, but what's nice is I see this one, and it seems so far, I'm not going to say it's easy, but when you do something, you get rewarded for it. I love the fact that, you have that ninery concept versus just a binary. That's kind of a unique thing. Obviously with the unilevel and the check matches, because a lot of people with I think the problem a lot of people have had with binaries per se is you have that fear of putting your best people and your biggest leg, and then you think you'll never get paid on them. Whereas a check match, especially one as many levels as this one pays out, compensates for all that. So you could literally stack your best people, you had 50 of your best people straight up and down in a leg of, string of pearls, and be making insane amounts of money off of them, even though you might not be making a huge, ninery check per se. And that kind of is a nice thing. So there's a lot of really neat aspects of it. I would tell you that in network marketing companies, you typically don't have to be an expert on how you get paid to just understand that you're going to get paid if you do the things that you're supposed to. You kind of just want to see those milestones, and you'll learn it as you go. Typically, when I answer questions on comp plans with new people, even though I may know the answer, a lot of times I will say, I'm not quite sure on that, just to move it on, because I know a lot of times it's probably over their head. You know, you need to figure out how to get paid a fast start before you need to worry on executive grand poobah and how that pays out, 9 levels kind of thing. So that's my opinion on it. But it's a fantastic comp plan. And, I mean, I've done really, really well in just first few weeks I've been involved as well.
Yes, you have. Mike, I hope you don't mind me sharing this. I think in your the company that you're with prior, I think you had like 300 personals. That's an insanely a lot of amount of people. So just asking, about, most people can't do that. They don't have the contacts, or they don't have the system put in place. And one of the things that really struck me when I was talking to you before you made your final decision, you asked the question I think most intelligent and experienced leaders would ask. You said, "Hey, Kauri, we like the product. It's really cool. Comp plan looks great, but do you have any systems in place?" And I remember you asking me, and we were just getting Rapid Funnel unwrapped. Tina and Kelly had been working on it. Travis, the whole crew had been. And you asked about it. Can you tell me why you asked that question? I know why, but maybe explain that.
Okay, we're going to have to take a deep breath for this one, because this is going to be a flood of information for you. Okay. Okay. So I have been, I always try to keep a structured system. Like I remember years ago, somebody told me that, what do you call it? A turnkey business is something that anybody can get in and do. Right. And, I like to have, like, I do step 1, I step 2, step 3. And most people have that. The problem that I found out many years ago that I kind of really realized was that people have always talked about systems, but there's really never been a lot of systems per se that were outside of personalities, right? Like if you have a really good personality, in most cases, you have an advantage to being a good networker, right? That's just the way it is. And I remember I was studying internet marketing. I started watching these internet marketers, and I was one of those guys that the traditional networkers, because I'm 53 years old next month, they really, I don't look it though, do I? Look good. No, anyhow, the traditional networkers were like, stay off Facebook, stay off the internet. It is the devil, right? That's not how you build the business. And then there was people on the other side of the spectrum that were like, this is the future. You can get your message in front of 10 times more people. And I'm in the middle of this void because I couldn't figure it out, right? Well, I remember hearing a guy, and a lot of you probably remember the book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And it was all about being an entrepreneur and everything like that. Well, I really liked that book, and I ended up buying I think it was on Amazon. I bought one of his live conferences, and I remember he said a few things on a few tracks that changed my paradigm of business in general, especially network marketing. And he said that systems are the leverage by which you turn ordinary people into extraordinary performers. Great businesses do not look for extraordinary people. Great businesses look for ordinary people and leverage them with extraordinary systems. And I just kind of sat back. I was in the car when I was listening to it. I remember it and I rewound it and I rewound it and I listened to it, because he was right before that. He was talking about the Ray Kroc story. Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, right? Or the guy that got McDonald's going. And he said that it was a system, right? That you could bring anybody in. Well, the other thing too is, and this all has a purpose of me telling all these stories here. But the other thing is if you've ever seen the movie Moneyball, okay, it's one of my favorite movies, not because it's a baseball movie, it's because it's a systems movie based on data that they use. It's a true story about the Oakland A's, who had the lowest amount of income, salary cap, and it was the Yankees had the highest, right? And they brought it in, and I remember the story was, it's just a great movie, but I watched it it's like my favorite movie. I have it on DVD. I've watched it, I don't know how many times. I've done webinars on, dissecting that thing, because the thing is the other thing we always talk about is motivation, right? How many of you guys have ever heard, oh, you need to just, motivate my people? Because I polled one time a whole bunch of people. One day I decided I'm going to see what the biggest problem most of my networking friends have. And there was probably about 5 questions that came up regularly, but the number one thing by like 90% was duplication. And most of the people just regurgitated on my people aren't motivated. Well, Michael Gerber, going back to his CD, he said that instead of trying to motivate people, we need to inspire people. But he said that basically the motivation will come if you create systems that get the work done for you, then the motivation naturally happens, right? Instead of trying to motivate people to produce results, create systems that help people get results, and the motivation naturally follows. Another light bulb moment, right? So this whole time I'm thinking over all these years, how can this happen? How can you do this? So my closest thing I had was my 5 steps: prospect, contact, present, follow up, and repeat. And I did it all manually. Well, then I started figuring out how to do it on the internet, right? Where I would prospect somebody by trying to figure out leads, and I would send them to a website, and then I would do this, and I would track all this data, right? So when I asked Cowrie, so I've been doing this for years. This is why I've been able to sponsor hundreds of people in, every single company that I've come in. So I asked Cowrie, do you have this thing coming? He says, well, I think the company's coming out with this thing called Rapid Funnel. I'm like, well, I'd love to hear about it. He said, well, apparently it's a phone app that does this and you can text people. And I'm thinking, okay. I think I was salivating at that time when I heard him say that. I was like, okay, so because I always, the thing is too, is yeah, I can do internet marketing, but what happens if I recruit somebody that's brand new to the industry? If I don't have a legitimate system, it's going to take a long time for that person potentially to get their learning curve up, right? Well, I've always taught people, believe it or not, I've always tried to teach people to stay as dumb as possible. I know that's strange and it sounds like the weirdest thing, a leader could say, but what I mean by that is I always emphasized creating a systems dependent team or tools dependent team as opposed to a person dependent team or personality driven team. Okay. Because again, it's not duplicatable, right? Like Travis in front of a room can't be bad because he's done it so often, right? Cowrie can't be bad. I typically can't be bad. I could give it a shot, but do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's so ingrained, but that's not duplicatable at this point. You can grow to that level and most of you will, if you stick it out, right? You can be that person. But when you have the right systems, when it comes down to the meat and potatoes of growing a business, you have to have simple systems that anybody can easily plug and play. So if you think about Rapid Funnel for a second, my whole business model, everything I've done in the last 15 years to make the money that I've made was based around 5 things: prospect, contact, present, follow up, and repeat. The prospecting was me making a phone call, asking permission to send somebody an email. And I did it in less than 20 seconds. That's all I've ever done, right? And they would ask a question on the phone. Well, what's this about? And I would always say this. Well, if I told you, it'd be like giving you a haircut over the phone. They would chuckle and I would say, is this your right email? Yes. And I would hang up and I would send them to a website. Didn't matter what the website was. Didn't matter what it said. Didn't matter what the copy was, nothing. It was just my entry into their thing. Well, guess what people started to do when they became more and more comfortable with phones? How many of you guys have ever called a friend and they didn't answer, but then they texted you right back? Did you need something? Yeah, I needed to talk to you. That's why I dialed the phone, right? I wanted to talk to you, but no texting. So what the power of the Rapid Funnel is you're meeting people where they're already at and comfortable. Think about that. Most people are not comfortable with networking. Most people have been conditioned thinking that they have to get in front of a room, which is the second, biggest fear people have besides death, right? It's public speaking. Well, what if you could take all that away? And I proved this on a training call with my group on Saturday. My number one guy using the Rapid Funnel is 73 years old, because I told him this. I said, I promise you, if all you do is go in and send out 10 contacts a day, doesn't matter what you send them, doesn't matter what you say, maybe give it a little personalization when you send it. Watch what happens. Who should I send it to? I don't care. Send it to anybody, right? And guess what? He sponsored 5 people in the last week and a half. 73 years old. Here's the funny part. I tried to get him on the Zoom with a video to talk, couldn't figure out how to turn the Zoom camera on. And then his wife's got the other Zoom going on. So I've got an echo going on. It's complete chaos on the thing. And I told everybody, I said, wasn't that worth it? I just proved to you that that system worked better than anything. But that's what's happening. And then you got follow-up. Is this too long of an answer on this one, Cowrie? Because
I love it, because I remember reaching back to you and saying, what do you think? And I think you actually came to me and you're like, man, this thing is awesome. I mean, you're just so ecstatic because I think you knew what you had in your hand with the company you just joined, right? So
yeah, it's a piece of cake. I was on the beach a couple of weeks ago. I went to Florida because I live in Ohio, and it was, you get it, right? In the middle of February. And I went down there, and I was just sitting there, and something triggered somebody's name. I'm like, oh, and I jumped right on the thing. I went and found him in my contact, send him a thing. I usually personalize everything. I basically just send him, I just add a little bit in there, like, hey, it's Mike. If you don't recognize the number, just got introduced to a company I'm helping launch here in the United States. Not sure if you're interested. Turns out the company's 9 years old, doing 100 million overseas, and they're just coming here. And I thought of you. If you get a second, watch this quick sizzle video below, the 1.5-minute video. I don't care what the video says. I don't care what it is. It's just the action to get somebody in there. I know Travis had said something one time on a call. I remember one of the Zooms I watched him do about sampling creates conversation, right? It's the same principle. It's the text create the conversation, which somebody requests a sample or whatever, as long as we're getting something into somebody's hands to create that conversation. And that's what's happening. So I got people that are taking the actions because, okay, here's an important thing. Okay. I'm glad I remember this. I forgot to write it down. I was going to make it. The other thing that I believe that people overlook that is the hindrance to them growing a big business or hardly having any results is they're outcome focused as opposed to process focused. Okay. And let me just elaborate on that just slightly. I learned a long time ago that in marketing, they called them lag indicators, like your back office, right? When you see a rep that you signed up is in your back office and you can place them in your binary, that is what they call a lag indicator. But on the front end is what they call lead indicators. Okay. And not to go get technical on you, but this is important. Your back office lies to you if you don't know how that guy got in that back office and how you can replicate it, right? So if you come to the front end is where the most important data is how many people am I talking to? How many people of the process am I talking to? Because I learned a long time ago at the company Cowrie and I were in one time at the one big event, they invited us all out there for the Sundance Film Festival, just for a leaders party. I think you remember that. Mm-hmm. And I remember being in this event with 300 of the top people in the company, and they were all like making insane, 5 figures monthly, worst case, and 6 figures in most cases, right? And so I got all these people in this room, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to walk around and ask everybody a question. And so I walked around this room and I asked everybody this one question. What's the number one thing you would attribute to your success? And the first thing that came out of their mouth is what I wrote down. I had a little notepad with me. And then and they'd say something and they'd kind of be startled because they just walked up and say, hey, Cowrie, what's the number one thing you'd attribute to your success? I'm taking a poll. And whatever came out of their mouth. So I took this and I ended up getting to talk to about 60 people that I went through in this time frame. And the number one thing they all had in common was not what website they used, not because every one of them had a different personality. They were a different type of person. They had a different website. They worked in different teams and so on. The number one thing they all had in common was consistency. In fact, the number one money earner in that company, I caught him right when he was getting ready to go on the bus. I ran by him. I shouted his name. He looks over at me and says, hey, what's the number one thing you would attribute to success? And he says this: I swing the bat as many times as I have to. Occasionally I get a hit. Every once in a while, I hit one out of the park. And I was like, oh, that's gold. And I just wrote that down and I remembered all of that, right? Well, so what it came down to for me was that I began to learn that if I rewarded myself for the right activity, enough of the right activity will always produce the right outcome, which is more reps, more duplication, that kind of thing. So by doing that, because people have always wondered why, well, how do you sponsor so many people? I don't sponsor so many people. I focus on how many people I can get my message in front of as fast as I can. I say less to more people. I'm process focused. Outcomes always happen. Can't tell the duds from the studs, zeros from the heroes. So why try? Don't prejudge anybody. Never. I don't typically prejudge. There's people that I won't send stuff to because I don't want them in my group. There's just some dumb people out there I don't want to work with. I don't need everybody, and I don't even care who they know. So anyhow, that was a long-winded, how do you like the system question, wasn't it?
Mike, thanks. Great answers, and thanks for sharing your information with us. So one of the things people talk about is, and this is a question for you, Mike, if you haven't spoken to somebody, let's say 3 or 4 years, maybe 10 years have gone by, their name pops up in your head, you're looking on Facebook or whatever, how do you approach them? What do you say?
Jokingly, typically I still send them a text. Okay. Perfect example. Last week on Facebook, there were 2 guys that took me under their wing when I was in my very first company 23 years ago. This guy happened to post something on Facebook, and I was intimidated because he's like a big business owner now. He owns a corporation and everything. And I was like, I get that chicken list feeling every once in a while too, right? And then I thought to myself, how can I teach my team to be that guy if I'm not going to do it myself, right? Hey, you walk across the bridge and see if it works, that kind of thing. I got to walk across the bridge first. So I said, all right. So I pulled out the rapid funnel. I had him in my contact list, and I said, and the hey Scott, and then I put my little cursor right underneath the comma, and I say, hey Scott, Mike Healy here, in case you don't recognize the number. Just wanted to let you know I was introduced to a company recently that's just launching in the United States, 9-year-old company doing over 100 million in sales. They have a really unique product that I've never seen brought to market. If you get a second, watch a short video. Take a deep breath. Oh my gosh, push send. Boom. I did what I was supposed to do, right? That was the key. Guess what? 5 minutes later, this guy replies back. Most of the stuff you sent me, I thought was crap. This one looks pretty interesting. Let's talk. I called him up. We had a conversation. He says, I love this. I understand this technology. I've been studying this. I had no idea any of this stuff. And he says, sign me up. If I would have chickened out on that, I would have lost out on probably a really good prospect there.
That's a great story, Mike. And I remember getting the call from you with Scott on.
And
what Scott said was, man, I'm in. He goes, we're going to talk more and do this and this. But I remember the excitement in his voice because, we all have chicken lists, but to go and fire regardless, that's really awesome. So thanks for that.
Can I throw this out
Sure.
too? I actually typically always lead with the product. I usually use the one that's if you go into you click on the contact, send resource, DNA drops, intro, and then it's the one that says sizzle video sample, because it's just short text and it's just a 1-minute video, right? Because I just want them to nibble on the bait is all I'm really looking to do, because I want to create the dialogue in the conversation. And I send that one because I typically edify with that what I just said to you guys, where I say the 9-year, 100 million, just coming to the States, unique product, proprietary technology. I might throw those words in if it pops into my head. And I edify the product because a lot of people have either been tainted by networking, or they might be busy right now, or what's Healy pitching now, that kind of thing. But from a product standpoint, product typically addresses everybody. And we have a product or some of the products that probably address just about 99% of any issue physically that somebody would deal with. And the one of the lessons that I learned about this first and foremost was back in that other company that Cowrie and I were in. My top guy, I was so intimidated to talk to because he was played linebacker for the Seattle Seahawks. He went to my high school. He was 10 years older than me. I mean, I was a water boy as a little kid when they were playing high school football. My dad was one of the coaches. He went on to play for the Seahawks, and then he had really bad knee issues. And I knew this was an anti-inflammatory product. And I told him about it. And he said, he goes, I'm too busy. I own my companies, but I'll try your product. I'm like, okay, da, 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 da. And then the next month he was in, he didn't do anything. And the next month he was in, he didn't do anything. I called him and he goes, well, I'll give it one more shot, see how it worked. And then the 4th month said the product had enough effect on him that it was worth him staying on it. And oh, by the way, when you talk to this guy that I was mentioning this to, and within 2.5 years, this guy ended up, because the product worked for him, becoming basically a brand ambassador. He then went on to build a business that put $600,000 in my pocket, commission wise, not volume, money, right? And it came from a chickenless person that I just put the product in front of because I knew that would probably address more people from that scenario. And that's happened multiple times. Not everybody that I put in does that kind of money, but you see what I'm saying? So I always go with that because because people, what I've also figured out in the industry is people aren't going to sell anything they don't have their own confidence in. And that's good because that means you got ethical people, right? That's what's nice about this type of thing is it's easier to sell something if you believe in it. And so when you get people that believe in the product and you address it from that issue, it really typically takes off for that person because now they've got a story, they can tell their compelling story, they got a testimony, and it just becomes repetitive.
Nice. So Mike, where we are today, a lot of people know about Rapid Funnel in the company. A lot of associates have heard about it. Some people have not engaged yet. And one of the things I was thinking about is in everything we do in life, we kind of hardwire our brains to do certain things. We take the same routes home every day. We do things the same. So for a lot of networkers who have been doing networking a traditional way or online, how do we get them to make that jump, to pick up their phone, to be able to go on and use Rapid Funnel? What would you say to them?
Don't be dumb. Quit doing it hard way. No, I'm sorry. I honestly, I think it comes down, first off, it comes down to kind of internal motivation. What's your why? That's kind of like, networking 101 is your why. But then understanding that this is it's the Rapid Funnel is the equivalent of me saying, Cowrie, I will give you $100,000 if you will dig me a ditch 10 feet deep and 100 feet long with the shovel, or you can use a backhoe. You take your pick. The ditch is going to get dug either way, but which do you want to use? Shovel or the backhoe? Rapid Funnel is the backhoe because it just creates that leverage, that ease of use and so on. And again, the nice thing is it's like, this is the perfect time for this tool to come out because it is a comfortable platform that people are used to and conditioned already to use. People already know how to text. People are comfortable with it. People can send emojis. People watch videos online. I mean, all of these things. And so I don't think it's going to be too hard because I think what you will see, like literally Rapid Funnel is 2 weeks old for the company. I feel like I've been using it for years because it's been running through my brain for all this time. But I think what you'll hear is more and more testimonies of people that, I sent out 100 of these contacts and I had 10 people join, or, I had 5 people join, or I had 50 people join. I mean, the engage and like from a marketing standpoint, I have huge email lists. I have data on websites and all that stuff. Like emails, you're lucky to get a 5% open rate on most emails. I don't know about you guys, but I'm seeing like a 50% engagement rate on completely cold contacts of people that I haven't messaged or talked to in years. People, the other thing too is, okay, here's one of the biggest issues in network. I'm glad we're on this conversation, whether it was in my head and I was thinking it out, or you actually asked me, is how many of us have always heard of the NFL club? No friends left, right? Which is actually such a lie. It's so bad. It's so bad. It's the worst lie you can tell yourself, because what you're doing is you're prejudging your friends, family, and associates. And those are the people, in most cases, that you have on your phone would be the people that you would want to take advantage, take beach trips with and be millionaires with, that kind of thing, right? But it's easier to think, oh, if I just tapped into the cold market, that's where it's at, but it's not. With this funnel system, it allows somebody to go in and re-engage those people, because the other thing too is, again, you're just being the messenger, not the message, and you're just engaging somebody. What's the worst thing that happens? I sent you a text and you said, no, thank you. Or no, not for me. Okay, not a big deal, right? If you sell insurance and I say, I don't need any insurance today, you're not going to cry, and we're not going to not be friends, hopefully, right? I mean, just be nice about it. If somebody says, no, not a big deal. But I will tell you this, you put it in their head. You put the idea in their head. I don't beg anybody. I tell you, I say, look, I'm going to give you one shot and that's it for me. Unless it's somebody I really, really know. And if they've been tainted, or if I want to work together or something like that, I'll stay on them a little bit more if I really, really want to work with that person. But otherwise, I'm just trying to introduce people as quick as possible. Quick story. I apologize. Hopefully you can handle this story. This goes back to another numbers scenario. One of the best trainings I ever went to, that I learned, one of my best lessons was this, is I went to an MLM training seminar. It was about 150 people in the room. And the guy had everybody after the lunch break come back with a $1 bill in their hand. And he said, everybody make sure you have a $1 bill in your hand. And we're going to do something. I'm like, oh, wonder what this is. Right. And so at break, he goes, here's the thing. Everybody has a dollar, wave your dollar. Everybody's got a dollar, they're waving their dollar. He says, here's the deal. We're going to do a contest. He says, you have to think of something, okay, that you're going to go around the room and you are going to ask somebody in the room, or anybody that you want to talk to, something that you would do whatever you need to do to get them to give you their $1 bill. And you're going to have 15 minutes to do it. And the person at the end is going to win this. He's going to give like all of his books and stuff. And everybody's like, well, what do I say? What do I say? What do I say? Because I'm not telling you, figure it out. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, okay. And so I thought of this thing. I was like, because I listened to the rules of the game. The game was to get somebody to give me their dollar. So what I did was I said this. I would walk up to somebody and say, hey, if you'll give me your dollar, I will tell you everything you need to know to be a millionaire in the next 6 months. And they were like, really? And they gave me the dollar and I go, and off to the next person I would go. I know that sounds weird and that's probably not the coolest thing to do, but that wasn't the game. The game was to go to talk to people as many as you could. And at the end of the 15 minutes, he had everybody sit down and he said, how many people here still have their $1? And people were waving their $1. He said, you guys failed. I was like, oh, that's pretty bold, because none of you risked your dollar. He goes, how many of you lost your dollar? And like that. And he says, you guys, he goes, did you get a dollar back? No, you guys failed. He goes, I watched some of you lose your dollar and leave the room and go to the bathroom. I watched some of you lose your first dollar and walk over and stand in the corner. And but out of the entire room of 150 people, there was probably only 10% of the people that had more than $1 left. And of those 10%, 3 of us had all of the remaining dollars for the entire room. Like I had like $40 in the thing, and I got to keep them all, which was kind of cool, right? But the lesson was to say less to more people as fast as you could to get that done. And I used to, and when I did, we were doing public trainings and I'd done a bunch of these, I was doing that with rooms, same exact scenario. It was just a matter of people not saying enough, saying less to more people as fast as they could with the least amount of information. It didn't matter what somebody had said. It was just a matter of getting somebody in front of information. And that was the thing. And by doing that process, results happen.
Wonderful. Our guest tonight, Mike Healy. Thanks for joining us. Mike, I've got one more question for you. Then we're going to open it up and see if anybody's got some questions for you. But before I do that, I want to thank you for the last 48 minutes. It's been great. A lot of great information. So I'm going to ask you one last question and we'll open it up. Are you having fun? Are you having fun at aplgo? I think I know the answer. What do you think?
I am having fun. It's been a while too. Like when you have genuine fun, there's a difference between manufactured enthusiasm and genuinely being excited to wake up, like to do something. And, the other thing too is networking can be monotonous, especially if you've been doing it for as many years as I have, right? You don't have that ignorance is bliss kind of feeling a lot of times. What, oh, well, I tried that in the past and I had these results, but you can't look at it like that. My opinion's always been, what if? Well, what if it does work? What if this company becomes $1 billion company in here? What if I do make 10 contacts a day for the next 30 days? That kind of thing. And so it's been exciting because I've been able to wake up and do simple tasks, simple activities, core tasks that have produced results. But then the one of the most satisfying things is what you guys are doing right now, is you're collaborating and creating a good community and a good culture. And last kind of tip on this one, I guess, is most people join companies for product and opportunity, but they typically stay for, community and culture. Community being the people, culture is how you do it. And if you just put that out there, there's lots of people that we call it, just want to show up and eat the cookies, right? They'll come to every home meeting, but never bring a person and everything. And there's nothing wrong with that. They're just the people that want to do that. And then there's the people that are the players, and it's all good, but everybody can relate to somebody, and it's a place for somebody to get better. Because, regardless of the money people make or don't make in networking, if you approach it with the right attitude, you will always come out ahead. Even if you don't make a dime, if you do it right and you listen to some of the leadership that's in this company specifically, and just the people I see and I've heard and watched, you will be a better person. You can't help it. You will be better no matter what. And that's what's nice. And it makes it fun to see that. And it's fun to learn from other people. I'm not an expert. I'm getting the hang of it, but I still learn from other people. And the thing is too, is I don't just learn from people like Travis and Cowrie. I learn from brand new people more often than a lot of times I learn from the big experts and the big leaders, because they're the masses. The newbies are the masses. Those are the people you have to listen to, because it's their issues and their problems that have to be addressed and identified. And if you can create a system in place that takes that ordinary person and helps them become an extraordinary performer, game over. We win.
Well said.
Yeah, I'm having fun, by the way. So it's good.
I could tell early on that you were having fun, and to see that text come one night, and you said, "Man, I'm having fun." To me, that's when you really start enjoying the ride and doing those things every single day. Well, we're at about 50 minutes into this. What we're going to do is we're going to open it up with Alicia and Sarah's permission. We're going to open it up for a couple of questions. So whoever's got a question, if you want to speak up, I'd encourage you to do it.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Hi, Mike. That was absolutely amazing. Quickly though, I have a stack of business cards where I have gone to business meetings and I've gotten cards and I don't remember these people and they won't remember me. What's the best way to reach out to them and how? And my next one is, do you give out samples?
I have given a couple samples out, but I typically haven't had to, because they've I said, yeah, I'll get you a sample. And then I sent them 2, 3, 4 videos after they've already engaged. When they say they want a sample, they're basically saying, I'm really interested, you know, and I'll say, yeah, I'll send you a sample. But the next thing I know, I'm sending them a couple of videos, and most of the time they enroll before I even send them a sample. I said, well, if you enroll, you're probably going to get your product before I send samples anyhow. You still want me to send them? Nah, don't worry about it.
Okay. And the business cards?
More product for me, right?
Remember you?
Exactly the same way I would do it with anybody. I would go into Rapid Funnel, click on add contact, the little green head in the bottom with the plus, add that person's name and mobile phone number. And then I would send them a resource. I would send them the resource, but when you click to send the text, it should come up and give the opportunity to, you know, to edit it. After the comma, after their name, I would say, hey, this is Mike Healy. Not sure if you remember me. We met at the business luncheon and so on. I really enjoyed speaking with you. Have no idea if you'd be interested or not, but you've got the personality type I'm looking for. If you get a second, watch this short video. Thanks, exclamation point. I've actually learned how to speak in talk to text because I've been doing it so often now. Like I say period, I say exclamation point because it adds in. And that's what I would do. I wouldn't overthink it. A lot of people overthink this stuff. Just send it because you never know.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Did I just blow your minds with such wisdom that you're just stunned and can't say?
We're stunned. I have a quick question. I have 2 associates signed up under me, which I was super excited about. And my stepfather passed away last week, so I kind of went dark, unfortunately, a little bit. I was still trying to engage. When I sent out a video in regards to the comp plan to both of them, one was super excited, super charged about it, and then the other one was like, this isn't for me. I don't want to sell. I'll just buy. How do you re-engage somebody who was originally like super stoked, had 2 people that she was thinking about, and then all of a sudden she saw something she didn't like and then dropped off?
Honestly, I typically don't.
Okay, good. So don't put too much energy into it, right?
It's easier to give birth than it is to raise the dead. And people can be exhausting. I don't play weekend at Bernie's with people.
Okay,
where you're dragging around a dead body. There's not enough time. There's too many people to talk to for me to waste time on that. You have to think bigger.
Okay.
You can't think that person's going to make or break your business. That's why you can't tell the duds from the studs, the zeros from the heroes. And sometimes you have to love them alone. You know, that you just say, oh, no problem. And if they said, I'll love to be a product user, if somebody's doing a webinar that says it's all about the product, say, hey, I know you were really focused on a product. This person, you know, Lisa Smith does a phenomenal job explaining it. You might enjoy it. And if they don't get on the live one, hey, didn't know if you made it on the live one, here's the replay. And you just, you know, you kind of just, you give them information, but you don't beg them to go do something because that puts you in manager mode. And the problem with network marketing is people are conditioned from traditional business life as either employees or whatever to manage people versus inspire people to do things, which is different. Like my pastor said this one time many years ago, and it changed another one of my paradigms. Was before he was a pastor, he owned a big insurance company. And he said that what he finally realized was, because he was doing the same thing you might be trying to do, was he finally realized that the only thing you truly owe your people is an example of success, but it's ultimately going to be up to them to go out there and do the business and build it. And I thought I was like, man, that was a gold nugget. Because what happens is you put and you have to be very careful. Women especially, women are the better networkers than men because they're such nurturers. But at the same time, you can be too nurturing to the point that you hurt a person's growth almost, of them not getting up and doing something, as opposed to going out and making an example. The people that inspire me are the ones that are going out there and working it. I'm inspired by Cowrie. I'm inspired by Travis. They don't even have to talk to me. I'm inspired by their example of success because I see it. If you go out there and not rely on that person as to be, and I understand too that you have a relationship and you have a heart for people. I get it. You know, I take a responsibility when I enroll somebody. I beg them practically to call me if you need help. And a lot of them don't. Like a lot of them don't. And I never could figure that out. When I wanted to get out of the bar business, your phone was going to ring off the hook because I couldn't have one more drunk person say his drink was weak or throw something at me, or I had to throw another, guy out of the bar. I was going to do whatever it took to win. And that's the thing. But I always left the door open to anybody that was welcome to come in. So hopefully that answered your question.
Definitely answered it, and very much appreciated. Thank you for your time.
You are welcome. Anybody else? Going once?
I just want to say, hey, Mike, it's Brenda Engel.
Hey, Brenda.
And hey, you used I'm just so excited about you being a part of this. Because I remember you from when you was in Chattanooga. Yeah, that was
a long time ago.
Yeah.
That was forever ago.
But I just wanted to say, when I saw your name, I'm like, oh my God, I was just so excited and happy to learn that you're on board now. So.
Well, I appreciate it. And you're going to have to get out more then, if it's just that I got you this excited. But thank you. I appreciate it. Seriously. Thanks.
This was so helpful, Mike. My takeaway is like you don't have to waste much time. It's like bang, 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 boom, next to the person, right? You just keep going. And that speed, the speed at the start is, and not focusing on the result, but just keep going, because it will add up to where you want to be or where you're heading to. That's the way I see it.
Exactly. And I'll give you another story that will relate to that about the taking action. Again, I've learned these lessons the hard way. But I won in a company about 8 years ago, I won a $50,000 recruiting contest. And this was basically pre-internet. This was me doing phone calls. And I basically, all I did was I went to it was during like the fall, this contest happened. And I would go to my two boys were playing Pee Wee football, and they would have football practice from like 5 to 7. And I would go sit under the trees. I had a little lawn chair, and I had just some old notepads of phone numbers and business cards that I'd collected over the years. And I just sat there and I would just make as many phone calls as I could during that 2-hour window until I talked to a minimum of 10 people that gave me permission to send them an email. That was my whole MO. My method of operation was that. And the contest was, I think, a 5-month contest. And I never won any of the 1 month. I was never in the top spot for the month. I maybe came in the top 5. I think I got second place once. But overall, because everything had a point value, at the end of the 5 months, I was the number 1 point gatherer, basically, of the contest. And I won a $50,000 bonus. But in addition to that, I also paid that's what launched my business, because of that consistent activity. So I had something to work for at the same time, but I rewarded myself too, because I didn't want to necessarily burn myself out, because sometimes you can go, man, I'm going to put 100 people in today, and then you don't put anybody in the next day. And then you're like, well, I put 100 in yesterday. And then the next day you put 100, you don't put any in because, well, I put 100 in 2 days ago. And then you put 5 in, and then none the next day, and then the next day. It's, to my opinion, it's better to do 5 to 10 a day, every day consistently, than it would be to put a whole bunch in right away and so on. It's just because you don't know that, you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, popcorn pops at different rates sometimes, right? And so you got to put a certain amount of people in and at a time. So anyhow, thank you for the compliment, though. I appreciate it.
I do.
Anybody else got any questions?
I do. I have a question. Let's see if I can word this right. So you mentioned you bought somebody's like seminar stuff on Amazon. You listened to them. What is your favorite or most impactful like personal development or, kind of books or seminars or anything that changed your life that you could, share with us, that maybe we could get into a little bit to help us grow?
Okay. Yeah. I think, along the lines that got me really thinking differently and being, core task focused was the book Influencer. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Hold on. I got it on my shelf. Oops, I killed my plant.
Uh-oh.
It's this one right here called Influencer. You got it, Cowrie? I told Cowrie you better start reading it again.
Who's the author?
It's 5 of them. It's like Carrie
Oh.
Patterson. It's called The Power to Change Anything. But and if you look at it from a networker standpoint, it'll completely rock your world because it's the psychology of these people that had studied how they changed entire cultures of things, like the story of Thailand when it had this huge AIDS epidemic. And what they had happened is they'd released a bunch of convicts. The king had like a birthday, released all these contacts, and they went in, and because of the way the culture was, 80% of the whole population of men there like had AIDS at one point. And they were like, how do we change all this? So they had to figure out the psychology to figure out the core tasks and vital behaviors. And that's the same type of psychology that you have to kind of get into if you want to go next level with networking. Kind of the way I looked at it. It might be a little, it's not the easiest read, so you don't want to just try to push through it. But like I literally read like the first 2 or 3 chapters probably 10 times before I continued on the book because I wanted to absorb those things the most. Obviously, All You Can Do is All You Can Do, but All You Can Do is Enough by Art Williams. That was the very first network marketing book first book I ever read. Literally the first book I ever read. And it was given to me or recommended to me by Paul Orbison, which was the #1 money earner in Excel, the first company I ever did. And he was the first person, I think, in network marketing history that had ever made $1 million in a month. Right?
Can you repeat that title again?
All You Can Do is All You Can Do, but All You Can Do is Enough by Art Williams. And he just held the book up and looked at me and said, Mike, he was from Kentucky, so I'm going to give a Kentucky accent. I know I got a hillbilly accent anyhow. He said, Mike, this here's the Bible of network marketing. Go get yourself a copy. And I did. And I just absorbed it. It was an easy read because Art Williams built a network marketing model insurance agency that did billions and billions of dollars. It was like a huge success story. There's a lot of old school network marketers that cut their teeth with Art Williams. And it's a phenomenal book. So I like that one. The Slight Edge, if you've never read The Slight Edge, that's a phenomenal book. And that's by Jeff Olson. That's pretty popular in the networking circles because it goes along the lines with doing that little tiny daily activities, the slight edge things that you can do. Trying to think of some, let me see here. I got a lot of other stuff. Oh man, this one's gold. I got to get you that one. Probably one of my new favorites. How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling by Frank Bettiger. How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling by Frank Bettiger. This was recommended by another $1 million earner in networking. And the first chapter alone can literally change your business, because the first chapter alone talks about enthusiasm. And when I read that, sometimes you get the right message at the right time. And I remember I was kind of in a slump and I read that and I was like, yep, that's me. And when I tweaked what he'd said in that book and did it differently, just acted a little more fired up and acted a little happier and just wasn't so monotonous, everything picked up, everything changed. People want something fun to do nowadays too, by the way. I mean,
That's
I don't know
why
about
we're the
you.
Candy Crew.
I don't know about y'all people, but I'm tired of, I'm an introvert and I don't mind staying home by myself. But when lockdown crazy's over, I might rent a circus tent and have the biggest party I ever had at my house. And I am not making that up. That is a fact, Jack. Trying to think of another book that I got here. I mean, those are Tribes is a great one by Seth Godin. Tribes. Because that's all about building your community, your culture, that kind of thing. Kind of gives you some tips. Man, I got a book in my head that I can't, for the life of me, I got it downstairs and I'm reading it right now. Why can't I remember that book? Calorie, what's the name of the book that Bob Schmidt used to talk about, recommend all the time? I got it. Bringing Out the Best in People by Alan Loy McGinnis. That one's a critical book. If you want to build a group, Bringing Out the Best in People by Alan Loy, L-O-Y McGinnis.
Why don't we do this, Mike? Let's put that in the Candy Crush chat. We'll list all the books, all the authors.
I'll let you guys do it.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm going to move it back. Mike, you thanks so much. I'm going to move it back to Sarah or Alicia to close the call. But again, Mike, thank you so much. I think myself, especially, a lot of us learned some really valuable things. And I know your bedtime, we're past your bedtime, so thanks for staying up.
I go to bed at 9 o'clock, if you guys, Eastern Standard Time, if you can believe that. But I'm usually up at like 4 or 5. I like that quiet time in the morning, so it's kind of funny. But I told my wife, I told Cowrie, I go, man, takes a lot to keep me up this late, but I'll do it for you, buddy. So, yeah.
We're so grateful for you, Mike. I think I have like 7 pages of notes from what you've said. You've just gold, just left and right. And we cannot thank you enough for joining us tonight and staying up past your bedtime. Really, we are so grateful.
You are quite welcome. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate you guys asking me on here, because it's fun for me to pull that out and try to remember some of these things too. So I get a lot out of these as well. So hopefully you got a lot out of it. And then send me the copy. I'd love to watch it and critique myself.
Absolutely. We will send you the recording as soon as we get it up. I know we'll post it in the Go USA and share it for everybody who missed it. And we're going to have you back, because that was awesome. And thank you so much.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me on here. Appreciate it. And nice to meet everybody on here.
Alicia, do you want to add anything, or we can just...
We'll just end it. Thanks for jumping on with us, Mike. We appreciate it. We'll get the recording out as soon as possible. And we're excited that you're on this journey with us. We're having fun.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, peeps.
Good night.
Good
Thanks,
night.
Corey.
Bye, y'all. Good to see you again, Mom.
Thanks, Brenda. Have a good one.